Hi, what's up everyone? So in this video, I'm gonna go over the journey that every trader goes through and also the journey that took me from zero to multiple six figures a month. And hopefully by the end of this video, you should be able to identify where you're at and know exactly what you gotta do to move on to the next step until we can finally reach the last step, which is just constant profitability. So the first step is gonna be the beginning, right? So it's gonna be all about just learning the basic concepts. It's probably going to be the first time of you looking at charts. And we're going to watch YouTube videos. So in my case, I'm an ICT trader, so I started with TJR Bootcamp, ICT videos, T Trades, all of those people. You're also probably going to join a bunch of communities and you're going to learn from other people as well. You're probably also, going to have some hard time learning the first things. I remember when I was trying to learn the first concepts, it was hard to even like find fair value gaps on charts. And, nowadays it's something I do naturally. And it's also the most nostalgic part of your trading journey. I look back at my journals these days and it's super cool to look at my notes, just learning the basics of ICT. Now, if you want to get out of the step one and move on to the next level, you really need to focus on learning the confluences. So don't just watch videos, but actually take notes. I recommend either getting a pen or paper or, a Notion journal or something like that. If you don't understand it, watch the video again, try to find other videos about it, and actually go to the charts, try to find these confluences, make sure you understand each individual concept so you can actually move on to the next step, which is strategy. So after you learn the basic confluences, you're gonna start trading a specific strategy. Now, you have two options here. The first one is developing your own. So based on the confluences that you feel like you understand better or the ones you're the most confident at, you can combine them to make your own strategy. So if, for example, you like to take 10 a.m. reversals off of, inversions and delivery from gaps, you can build a strategy around that. But personally, that's not what I did because at this point, you're not going to have a super good understanding and experience in the markets. So most people would pick a strategy from someone else. So by going through all the people you know from trading and other communities, you're going to watch a bunch of people trade and you can kind of copy their strategies, which you know is valid. Now, a lot of people take that the wrong way and they strategy hop too much because they think that, oh, if I'm not profitable, it's because I'm trading the wrong strategy. From what I've seen, pretty much every strategy works. I mean, I know dudes who make over 500,000 a month from trading trend lines and all these crazy strategies that you might think it don't work. But if you truly trade it right, you get experience, you backtest it, which we'll talk about later. You can make anything work. So if all strategies work, how do you pick the right one? Well, I think the right one is the one that makes sense in your head, it makes sense for you, and the one that you feel confident trading. Now, if you want to learn my strategy, you can go to my server. It's 100% free right now. I have a video on it, and I also post more videos on it here. So watch out for that. Now, once you pick or develop your own strategy, it's time to backtest and journal everything. Now, I put that as step three, but you're really going to be doing this until you turn 100% profitable. Even if you get a strategy that's proven to work and it has a proven win rate, you should still backtest so you get confidence in the model, you get natural with it, and you know how to use it in every situation. Because you might know, the broad strategy, but do you know, okay, what should I do when this confluence happens, or we're in this type of market, or the bias is this, right? So there's a lot of variations in trading, and you can only be prepared for these variations if you've been through them before. So backtesting is the best way to do that. I'll also do a backtesting and journaling guide, which is coming soon. And this part is gonna be the biggest improvement you're gonna have in your trading career. I mean, 80% of your improvements are gonna be based on how much you backtest and how much you journal and how well you're doing in it. As I said, I'll do my own guide on it, but there's a lot of people who are backtesting hours, but they're not taking anything from it. So you gotta make sure you're actually getting something from the backtesting and the journaling. Now, while that's happening, you're still gonna be trading live, of course, and on paper. Up to this point, you shouldn't have spent a single dollar in trading itself, so you shouldn't have started a live account or bought any fundeds. If you wanted to, you could have bought, communities and things. I think that helps a lot, and it helped me personally. Um, but you shouldn't have put any money into actual accounts. because what you should do first is get a proof of profitability, is what I call. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna set your paper account on TradingView to 50K, and you're gonna try to pass it following the same rules as you would on a real funded. So in this case, for a 50K, you would try to get it to 53K without getting it to 48, and adjusting your risk. Of course, there's no point in trying to full par this. And if you actually do this once, twice, maybe 3 times, and then buying a real funded, it can save you a lot of money, because then okay, strategy wise, I'm ready for a funded. So I thought my ego was too high for this, and I skipped this part. And what that caused was I blew over 15 fundeds before passing my first one. Now add that up, it's a lot of money that I could have saved if I did that simple step. But if you're trying to rush to get to the real money, then you're probably gonna lose more than you're thinking. So you can go here in trading panel on TradingView, select paper trading, connect, then click the little settings here, reset account, and then you can set up your balance for a 50K, or if you want 100K, 150K, doesn't matter, same process still. And then just trade on that until you're ready to hop on a real funded. Now, of course, if you keep blowing this paper account and you feel like you're not ready, then you gotta go back to step 3, which is backtesting, journaling, look at your trades, and find the mistakes you're making. And then once you pass your proof of profitability, you can get to a real funded, which is step 5. Now, up to this point, you shouldn't have had any big psychology issues. I mean, people don't really have psychology problems trading a paper account. But when you get to the funded level, that's when shit really starts kicking in. You've probably heard people saying, oh, psychology is the hardest part about trading. And I also thought that before I started trading a real funded. I thought, okay, I'm just gonna take good trades. Why would I force anything? It doesn't make sense to have bad psychology. But then when you lose your first trade on a funded and you feel like you're further from your goal and you feel like you need to make that money back, that's when you start having psychology issues. And I'll do a video on psychology later, everything I've learned about trading psychology so far. It's going to be a pretty long video, that's why I'm keeping it separate. But you should recognize that this is the first step that you're going to potentially have problems with psychology, so watch out for that. And from my opinion, it's going to be the hardest part, because you already passed the paper account following the same rules as you would. So you know that strategy wise, you're ready for a funded and you could have passed it, but now you're on the mental game. Also, when you're trying to pass your first funded, you start dreaming about, getting that certificate, putting that shit on the wall, got your name on it, and now you're officially a funded trader. And there's a lot of pressure on that a lot of times. I remember when I was trying to pass my first funded, I was $300 away, and I was so excited to, finally become a funded trader. And then I blew it during Asia on like some terrible psychology. And I know that was like the most devastating moment I've had in my trading career, probably. So be mindful of that, okay? As I said, I'll do a video on psychology later, but this is probably gonna be one of the hardest steps of your trading journey, passing that first funded. Now, once you finally pass the funded, now you're on to step 6, which is trying to get your first payout. So I said that the first psychology challenge was trying to pass your first funded. Well, now you're into the second psychology challenge, which is making your first real dollar on trading. And that's where a lot of people also have issues with psychology, because they think, oh, okay, now I can actually make money. And, if I make this percent, I can get this payout and it's going to save my life. And I'm going to start living my dream life. And all that mental pressure you put on yourself, it's going to affect on your trading. So it's very common for you to blow your account before you even get close to your first payout. But this, as I said, should only be a psychology challenge for you trying to get your first payout, because you already passed the proof of profitability. At this point you've probably back tested months and months, and you're journaling every day, and you've passed your funded, so you should be able to keep doing that and build a buffer and get a payout, right? But sometimes it's trickier than that, mainly with psychology. You see that once you get to this point, and I bet a lot of people watching this are at this point where they're trying to get their first payout, and it may sound simple, but it's not easy for sure. But once you finally get that payout and you start reinvesting it into more accounts and getting more payouts, at that point is when trading really gets fun and you get the freedom out of it. Now, I don't think you can consider yourself profitable after one payout. I mean, you can get lucky and get a payout, it doesn't really matter. But after you get consistently, every 2 weeks or every week, and you're getting set amount of payouts every month, then you fix your psychology and you're a profitable trader. Now, the way that you conquer this last step, and a lot of people ask me about, how do I scale? How do I go from 1K to 10K to 100K to even more than that? And I'll do a full guide on that as well, how to scale prop firms and get to multiple six figures a month. But it's a pretty simple process. You're gonna get a payout. It might be a small one. Your first payout is probably gonna be 500, 1,000, maybe $2,000, and you're gonna get that money and immediately reinvest back into trading. So you're gonna get more accounts. Now a lot of times you can get max elo on whatever firm you're trading. So let's say you have one Top Step account and you get a $1,000 payout. Just with that $1,000, you can buy 5 accounts, 550Ks, and with 5 accounts now you 5x your money. So your next payout is probably gonna be a 5-figure payout, and then at that point you're probably never gonna worry about eval money again. And it's in that point, it really gets fun because then you get to invest or save most of your money. Usually the safest option is to just dollar cost average into long-term stocks, assets, and maybe Bitcoin also. And at that point also, your main goal should not be moved to a live account on the prop firms. Of course, if you open your own live account, that's pretty good, and I think you should do that. It's gonna massively increase your profits, but you should never get moved to live on a prop firm. It's gonna lower your profits a lot, so you should never get moved to live. Trust me, I've been there, and it's not worth it, okay? So basically, these are the 7 steps you're gonna take as a trader. Now, of course, it sounds really simple, and it is, but it's not easy. As I said, if you're having any trouble going through these steps, it's either a strategy problem or a psychology problem. If it's a strategy, go back to step 3, do a lot of backtesting, journal every trade you're gonna take. If it's psychology, then of course you gotta work on your psychology. And as I said, I'll do detailed guides on each of those things and how you can actually improve on those areas. But the main reason I'm doing this video is because a lot of people ask me, what was your journey like? What should my next step be? What should I do if I'm in this step? And I think that just gives you an overall layout to where you're at and what you should do to move on to the next step. Another thing is this helps a lot with goal setting, because a lot of times the psychology problems we have with trading is that we're thinking too far ahead. So let's say you just passed the funded and you're trying to get a payout. It's super easy to see people on social media making 10, 50, 100K in a day, and you start thinking, damn, I wish I was making that much money. But you're trying to take too big of a step. You should focus on the thing next to you, which is to just get a payout regardless of the amount. And then once you get your first payout, okay, now let's try to get the second one a little bit bigger. Okay, now let's try to get more accounts and get a 5-figure one. Okay, now let's try to do 20K, 50K, 100K, 150K. Don't try to go from unprofitable to 100K in a day. That's gonna mess up with your psychology and it's gonna cause you to make bad decisions. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. As I said, watch out for the future guides on backtesting, journaling, psychology. There's a lot of sauce coming on the way, so watch out for that. And yeah, stay safe. Peace.